GF cheated and wants to get back together. At the time I was 23, and my GF 20, was together for 3 years closing to 4 years and we have son together. Our relationship was great, we never argued and got along great, never had any major issues throughout our relationship. I worked hard to afford our home and tried my best to make it to where she didn't have to worry about anything, just our son. She loved being a stay-at-home mom and so did I. It all started with her wanting to work and make her own money. Which I was all for it because the stress my job made on me plus worrying about bills and food on the table, it would help me a lot. She wanted to babysit even if it was only getting around $100 or so a week. Something is better than nothing. Take note, I reassured her she didn't have to as I was doing fine taking care of it on my own. Granted, we didn't have much free money, but the bills were paid and there was food on the table, which is what really matters. She understood and told me that she would feel a lot better to help me out and feel like she would be contributing more to our household. I reassured her that she was doing more than enough by taking care of our son and for the most part kept the house clean as she could, even with having a 2-year-old around. That being said, we agreed for her to get a babysitting job and she did rather quick actually, and she met this guy with 2 daughters that need a sitter Monday through Friday around 8 to 4 with making at least $300 a week. I said sounds good. A week goes by and he starts to compliment her on how well she is doing with his girls and that they really like her, and also starts to hit on her. At this point I did not know he was hitting on her as I usually work a night shift around 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. Now she did let me know that he was hit on her after I got home that night, and I asked her if she let him know to stop and she told me yes. So I wasn't too worried about it because I trusted her and she always let me know about these types of things. I am not the type to search my significant other's phone because as to it shows signs of distrust between couples. Now her on the other hand always searched through mine, but I really didn't think much of it because I had nothing to hide. Anyways, another week goes by and he compliments her more and hits on her again, and my GF shows me the text. At this point she hasn't responded to him and I asked her again if she asked him to stop and to reassure him that you are already taken. On top of this I am aggravated at the guy because he hasn't paid my GF for babysitting at all, and it's been 2 weeks and I have been paying for food for 2 more kids in my household that are not even mine. He keeps making BS stories and I wasn't liking it at all. So another week goes by and he finally pays her and we are beyond hurting for groceries, so I tell her that's awesome, now let's go get some groceries. Also would like to note that he did not pay her full amount, owed only $300 and he owes her $900. And I get that life situations can't help that sometimes, so I was lenient towards it. So we go to get in the truck for grocery shopping, then the 2 girls she is babysitting said they don't want to go and would rather go to the pool instead. We have a big town pool that costs $20 to get into for all of us, and my GF says we can go to the pool then go get groceries afterwards. At this point I said no, pool is secondary, we can go get groceries and then if we have the money we can go to the pool afterwards. She then starts to argue with me and defend the girls about wanting to go to the pool. So we get into a heated small argument that ended with me driving off with our son, and I took him to see my mother and get my mind off the argument. I told my mom what happened and she went and had a few words with my GF, and I guess it got heated as well. What was happening or why she was acting this way, but I wasn't liking it. Granted, my mother should have never got involved, I never meant to get her involved, but she was the only person I had at that moment to vent to. My sister went and talked to her as well and calmed everyone down and offered to have a girls' night out with her. I thought was a good idea because then me and my son could get some time together. So I go to pick them up later that night and she is drunk pretty bad actually. I carry her inside and take care of her while she pukes and everything before laying her down in bed. I see a text on her phone from the man she is babysitting for saying good night beautiful. At this point I'm confused because she told me that he didn't hit on her anymore or even compliment her. So I checked the messages and when I read my heart shattered. I instantly felt rage. I didn't know what to do. I just sat at my kitchen table for a long hour staring at my wall. So I called her stepfather that works night shifts and explained the situation. He calmed me down and told me not to do anything stupid that I will regret. I went around the house and grabbed a few things I bought for her and broke them outside. Then I grabbed my son and left to a friend's house that had a spare room for me and my son. The messages I seen on my GF phone were pretty bad. She was sexting this guy whom she was babysitting for, and I also read messages of them both talking about me in a bad way. This was going on for about 2 weeks. Every morning and night they would start the day off calling each other beautiful, handsome, sexy, etc. This happens around Father's Day, which hurt as well. I read messages that also were talking about when I went to work and when I was coming home, etc. I didn't sleep at all that night, and I went back and talked to her the next morning. She asked me if I wanted to be over. I said yes, definitely, and we need to figure out a way to get you back with your family. Her family stayed across the US, so we would have to buy plane tickets. We continued our conversation, and she tried to point out that my family members cheated on people and that not all relationships are 100% loyal. Seemed like she was trying to find reasons to justify her wrongdoings without feeling so guilty about it. Want to hear the kicker? She never apologized for doing it. So I told her I wanted to be over and I was done. We sat on the couch and talked a while longer. I eventually gave in and said I can try to work through it. Only thing I was thinking about at that moment was my son. I wanted to be there for him, and if I had split up with my GF at that time, she would have moved back to her family and I wouldn't be able to see my son that much. So a month goes by. Situation is not good. I tried really hard to get along with her, but every chance I got I would argue and throw the cheating BS in her face. I could never look at her the same again, and she seemed to not understand that. At this point, I'm done. I don't want to be with her anymore, and I also didn't want my son to see an unhealthy relationship between his parents. So I choose to break it off, and we will try to co-parent the best we can for our son's sake. She finally apologized and says she knows she messed up and wants me to give her a second chance to earn my trust back. I told her no, some mistakes have consequences you can't fix. I explained to her how I felt and how we should move forward. At that moment she said she didn't need me and that I was the one throwing away a 4-year relationship by taking the easy way out and leaving. Another few months go by and she keeps asking me if there was any chance of us getting back together. I told her honestly I didn't know, because you never know in life sometimes, but I said not likely. She continues to ask me this multiple times and I give her that same answer every time. She continued to send me relationship quotes and forgiveness quotes for months. I asked her to stop multiple times nicely, but she continued anyways, also sending me "we love and miss you" almost every day, even continues to now over a year later. I have told her multiple times the only reason we should be talking is if it has to do with my son. But she continues to do it anyways to this day. I'm doing good now. I've got a good job. I'm working on myself and better myself by working out and getting a bit more fit body. I talk to my son at least once a week and I get him for the summers, which is exciting. I talking to a girl right now and we have went on a few casual dates. She is absolutely beautiful and I'm really starting to like her. I don't plan on telling my ex about the girl because honestly it's none of her business. The only time we should ever contact each other is about my son, nothing more. Once my boy gets old enough to have his own phone, we will no longer need to contact one another. I do want to add that I still think she seems to think that we are getting back together, which did tell her recently it wasn't going to happen. She still continues to send me "I love you" messages, and all the photos she sends me of my son is both of them posing together. I ignore her a lot, and when I do answer they are very short. I can't just straight up block her because she is my main contact to my son, so I'm kinda in a standstill. Just curious on any suggestions going forward. I don't want to fight for custody because she was a stay-at-home mom for 3 years and she is a great mom. She has never once threatened to keep him from me, and I don't believe she ever would, but I also thought she wouldn't cheat too. Story 2. Caught wife cheating after 15 years. I'm 45, been married for 15 years to wife, 44, we have 2 kids, and I don't know how to really start this, so here we go. Me and my wife were childhood friends, not like we were close, 'cause we really didn't notice each other much until high school after mutual friends started dating, and we saw each other a lot more after that. At first we were friends, and then after I grew a pair of nuts. I asked her out and she said yes. A little confession, I had a crush on her before the friends started dating, but I kept it to myself. We started dating out last 2 years of high school and planned to go to the same college. But after figuring out that her school didn't offer the same program, I had to head to another one. Should have seen a problem when the school I picked had her same program, but she told me that it wasn't a place she's seen herself. We tried the long distance for a while, but I really didn't work, so we called it a quit while we were in college. After a few years and I graduated from school, we surprisingly bumped into each other during a visit back home. Conversation sparked up a passion of interest, so we stayed in contact, talking almost every day and reigniting each other's passion into each other, and it wasn't long where she had moved into my apartment. It did seem pretty fast now that I think about, but I can't lie, it just felt right at the moment. My career was going well and she was just about to graduate for her degree, so everything seemed right. Now during this time she had a male friend that I called him, and he was extremely attractive. Like, this guy is a player, and I kinda didn't trust him. Okay, I'll be honest, I didn't trust him at all, and I hated that my girl was his friend, and we had many conversations about this. And she promised me, damn near swore to God himself, that she had no romantic feeling for this guy and they were strictly friends, and that if I really trusted her, that I wouldn't worry, believing that I should trust her and know that she wouldn't do anything to sabotage what we are building. Let's fast forward. At this point my work and home life is competing with each other. The kids need me for this, but I have this and that to do by the end of the week, and I'm not gonna lie, I made my mistake maybe leaning too hard on her or not telling her how much I appreciated her, but I always thought it was implied. So one day I come home from work, and as I walked in I hear her laughing and giggling. As I head into the kitchen, I noticed she was cleaning the dishes and him was sitting at the island talking to her. As I walked into the room, a slight quietness entered with me, almost like I was the guest in my house, but they both quickly greeted me, not suspiciously, but enough to fill the silence. Now me and him wasn't friends, but we had have a conversation on my uncomfortable feeling about him and my wife, and it wasn't long or combative, it was short and simple. Looking back now, he probably got a good laugh at men, but after a few minutes he left and it was me and my wife. And now at this point I don't know if she was already with him or she was just mad at me for not helping out a lot, but when I went in to get close to her or show her some intimate touch, she rejected me with, "I'm tired. Had the kids all day." Or she would start a random argument about something that was so small. This has been happening for the last 6 months. Until I just got to the point and asked, "Is there someone else?" And this hell broke loose. She called me every name in the book and even brought up some insecurities that I had, and if that wasn't a sign, she didn't talk to me for about a week after that. At this point I knew there was something going on. So I knew I had to figure it out, so I booked her a spa day on my day off and made sure she was completely pampered, and while she left the house, me and an electrician buddy placed small cameras around the house. Now, before you say I wouldn't have done that, I would have left, and you're right, but I was praying that I was going too far. I was hoping that I'll record for a month or 3 and see that I didn't get anything, and then know that I'm a dumbass with a great woman that loves me. She came home smiling and even gave me some attention. I thought that maybe the spa day was all she needed, some time to wind down. It was almost like back in the day while it lasted. So after 2 months of recording I didn't find anything, and I was so happy, feeling like a dumbass for putting these cameras in my house, so I stopped watching the cameras for a while. They were just there, completely became out of sight, out of mind. Until one day I get a notification on my phone telling me that something in the house was ajar or something like that. So I checked the cameras, since I can see if one of the kids had broke something as I flicking through the camera. I stopped on my front door noticing a black pair of shoes next to another pair as it didn't look like none of my shoes, just from what I can see, so something in me said go to the bedroom camera. As I look at that camera there was no one in there and the bed was still made. For some odd reason I just kept flicking through the camera and then I caught my wife coming out the laundry room with him behind her. She fixed her clothing and he was buckling his pants. My heart shattered as I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Everything inside of me wanted to go home and kill both of them, I'm not gonna lie, but I thought about my kids and how losing both parents won't benefit them, so I shut everything in my office and ashamed to say. I cried, can't say how long, but long enough where my eyes felt like they were swollen, and after that I knew what I had to do. So as I'm heading home I'm trying to compose myself for this argument that I know was coming. I called a friend of the family and asked if the kids could stay over for a while so that we can talk. They agreed, and as I arrived home, my wife was cooking and I can still smell that food like a prisoner. Last meal. As I sat down it was a silence. As I looked at her I pulled out my phone and showed her the video of her and him coming out the laundry room, and all I said why at first she tried to lie even with video evidence, but after a while pursuing it she finally broke and told me the truth, that her and him has been sleeping together the last 3 years we've been married and she could be pregnant with his child, and that she's sorry I had to find out like this, but since it all out she wants a divorce. It hit me hard cause I came from a broken family and never wanted my kids to feel the struggle of separated family, but after hearing that I got up and went upstairs as I felt defeated. I've worked my ass off and did all I could to place this family on a pedestal and it felt like someone just kicked it from under me. I wanted to harm myself so bad when I figured that out, but God works in mysterious ways. Cause my daughter called me and told me that she loved me, not in those words but it was what I needed to get better.